Hey, everybody. We're back today for our look at the 2010s. We've done 5 categories. We're going to finish up that decade today. That's 2010 to 2019. We've added a new category this time around, the comic book genre, very relevant in today's film going experience. So we want to include that in this particular decade. And I'm here with Brian, AYBL Main, and Doc, regular movie guys. I'm happy to have them with us as usual. And Brian, you're going to kick it off with the comic book top 5.
All right, perfect. A little bit more in my wheelhouse here, guys. I'm kind of a comic book buff, and maybe Doc is too. At number 5, I've got Black Panther. It's part of the MCU movies. I thought that this was a great movie because it was very interesting and that it did a great job of melding the African culture with the actual filmmaking, and a lot of the stylistic stuff that was going on in the movies was very African based. What I really liked about the story was it's kind of proving that the villain, you can certainly sympathize with his motives, but not his means. Because I think Killmonger, like Thanos and some of the other movies for the Marvel Universe, was a villain you could relate to. That you did not feel he was wrong, but his methods that he used to fix what was wrong were highly questionable. So I like Black Panther there at number 5 for that reason. I think that's important. Number 4 for me is Captain America: Winter Soldier. This is probably my favorite of the MCU films, and because if you eliminate any superhero qualities, take all that away, and just have the story go for itself, it stands. It stands because there's not a whole lot of crazy graphics or CGI or things like that that are going on. It's just a really good storyline, and I think that that's what kind of carries it. It's a very much of a whodunit. We've got to solve this type of thing, and get to the end and catch the bad guy, and so I appreciate it for that. Number 3 for me is Bong Joon-ho, the guy who did Parasite, also did this movie before, Snowpiercer. Now I know they've made a television series about it as well. This movie is incredible. It's got Chris Evans in it. It's got John Hurt in it, Ed Harris, Tilda Swinton. It is just it's the Elliott kid is also in it. It's just loaded with great talent. And the story is just much more than guys trying to get to the front of the train. It talks about class systems, the unfairness of equity in any country. If you would try to break down any country, it addresses those issues. And I think he did a fantastic job. The setting, the colors, everything about the movie, the tone was just perfect. Chris Evans, to be able to go from Captain America to that role, that just proved I was like, he's the real deal. He can actually act. He's more than just the Captain America guy. So that's number 3. Number 2 for me is Joker. Todd Phillips films his interpretation of the villainous Joker. I got to be honest, it took me a little bit when I first started watching the movie to get used to the cadence that Joaquin Phoenix had in his voice. It was very unnerving to even me, just as an observer, as I can imagine how it could feel about the people around him. But it does address how we deal with the mentally ill. Society doesn't have a really good way of dealing with the mentally ill in any capacity, whether it be how they go about their jobs or how they actually interact with other human beings, whether it's for friendship or through romantic relations or anything. It kind of addresses all of those things. Todd Phillips did a great job with this, and it doesn't like bang you in the head that this is the Joker from the Batman universe. I mean, Bruce Wayne's not Bruce Wayne, but the Bruce Wayne's father's in it, and there is that scene in the alley where they're getting murdered and stuff. But other than that, it's just a movie that could stand on its own as a mentally ill person. It could just totally do it. So I left it there at number 2. It could have been number 1, but number 1 for me was Logan. I thought it could have been nominated for Best Picture. I thought the storyline in it about the mutants have been decimated, all their powers are gone. There's only a few guys remaining, and they really are kind of powerless, and they're just trying to trudge through life and not get hunted down by these government entities who just want to capture them and put them in labs and experiment on them. It's got, you know, father-son elements. It's got father-daughter elements to it. It's got a really good family stories that are kind of going on in the main, and then also off to the side that kind of all comes together in bits and parts. And I thought that's a great swan song movie for Hugh Jackman to step out of that Wolverine role for finally, and to kind of leave that behind him. And everything about it was well done. I liked it a lot. So Logan was number one.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
Doc, what do you think, Doc? Similar?
Well, we're hanging around. We almost hit on a couple that are banging on and stuff like that, but we just missed, if you know what I mean, too, Brian. So, yeah, we do have one in there that is the same, but yeah, I do like my my comic book stuff as well. So I'm kind of in the MCU neighborhood. I'm into that one. That's for sure. So I'll just jump in. My number 5, just because the way the cycle goes here. So, and it's just the way that I'm ranking the movie. So Endgame is number 5 for me. It's number 5 mainly for the last hour and change of the movie, really. I mean, I like the backstory and everything else, then how they get it, but the pace in that movie, the second half of that movie, the pace in that, it might have the most action I've ever seen in a movie in one sense. I mean, it's when that last battle scene is happening, that's visually something that I've never seen before, and nobody's really ever seen anything like this before. No. This was insane.
Right.
And it has some closure actually to the story and everything else that we've lived through in this phase of the Marvel book. And we're going into the next phase now. That comes out soon. But I just like the way that it closes off that part of things. And actually, it does have some sort of definitive ending to it in one sense, on how things that we've watched for 10 or 12 years of these different characters getting together, crossing paths and everything else. Endgame kind of delivered on really closing that chapter at this phase. So I thought it comes in at number 5 for that for me. Number 4, it is Captain America, but it is Civil War. So ooh. I debated between these ones. I tell you, I had Winter Soldier and Civil War between the two, and I love the story on Winter Soldier too, Brian. I really do. So, but Civil War, I think the intro into the Black Panther and Spider-Man making their appearances, and we're actually seeing them come into play here. And there's still that, it's a pretty good storyline going on, and how they actually split basically into 2 different segments inside in their gang, really. So, and pretty 2 strong-headed characters here. You know, you got Captain America thinking one way, and you got Iron Man thinking another. Never thought I'd be saying these words on a movie video or something like this in my life. Hey, Captain America's thinking this, but it is exactly that. And I just like, basically they all stuck to their guns on what they were thinking of, and really, and you see different things on how it moves from there later on. And I'll probably touch on that when we get there. But
did you
Captain
feel
America?
Like, did you feel like there was an itch that needed to be scratched between Iron Man and Captain America anyway, going into that film? Remove the Sokovia Accords. Iron Man resented Captain America because he felt his father loved him more than him.
More than he loved him.
Yeah. So there seemed I thought that was present in that, and they did a good job of portraying that was present.
Yeah, I thought it was, I mean, let's face it. I mean, some of these movies we're talking, this is, you know, people can look at different things on how movies are supposed to be made and everything else. And that's a different topic for a different day. This is high-end movie making across the board with these guys, man. This is serious. They might have a formula, they might have everything else down, but you want to be entertained, go watch an MCU movie and you will not be disappointed, man. And
yeah,
I'll jump into number 3 on that kind of thinking, because my number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy this was not in my wheelhouse. This is not the thing I knew about per se. This was not a comic book I read or anything along those lines when it came out. This is one of the most entertaining, funny, you know, emotional kind of comic book movies you could watch. And if this doesn't entertain you in this neighborhood, then this genre is really probably not for you, if you want it, because it kind of covers a lot of bases. It's a comic book movie, man. This is not real stuff, but they're telling you it's a fantastic fantasy story, man. Characters are fantastic, great humor, fantastic action, special effects top notch, great script, well directed. It's a high end movie, man.
Great soundtrack.
And great soundtrack. And there you go, man. The topper. 2's got a great soundtrack, and 3 will have the same. So I've already made my suggestions to James Gunn on what he should have for number 3. So, so Guardians is number 3 for me. Number 2 is the first half of the ending. It's Infinity War. I'm covering off a lot of MC here, but Infinity War is the culmination of all these things that I talked about previously with Endgame on how we get there. I like Infinity War better than I like Endgame. I don't know what to tell you. I found it to be a faster paced movie. I found a lot more different things happening at different spots, obviously throughout the movie. If this is in your wheelhouse, this has a great story. I mean, the characters are great here. I mean, that's, Thanos as the bad guy and everything else. I mean, the plots that it's led up to here, there's so many things different happening at all different spots, like nowhere, and all these different things that are going on in this movie. I can say a whole bunch of different things. It'll mean something to somebody and mean nothing to others. It's just a really good, the way this story is brought together throughout all the different characters and everything else, and the things they have to do.
They said that Avengers Infinity War was actually Thanos's movie. It's a Thanos movie.
It's a Thanos movie. It's kind of like a Thanos movie.
He really is the protagonist, because he actually is waging this holy type of war to eliminate half the galaxy based on a premise that it would be the best thing for the galaxy.
It would be the best thing for the galaxy to wipe out half the galaxy. And that's what, collecting all these Infinity Stones has to do throughout. That's happened over time. So this is obviously nonstop. This movie's got great action. It's got a great script. And it's great banter throughout this whole thing, man. It's top notch. But my number 1 is the same as Brian's number 1. It is Logan. This is a sad way, because I love the character Wolverine, and if we would have went back sooner and stuff like this, I would have had X-Men in my top 5. So Wolverine's a fantastic character of the X-Men series. I love the way that it's all done, with the professor and everything else, and Brian touched on it, how these mutants are basically just used through science and different things like this, and the ending of Logan, and it's vicious. Pretty good soundtrack in there too on some spots. So it is totally brutal. I mean, it's an R-rated movie. It's a sad ending to a fantastic character, but it's the comic book movie of the decade for me, man. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you noticed, I was very quiet during that segment because I have no idea what they're talking about. No, I'm being very forthright here. I actually have only seen 7 comic book movies, so I don't have a lot of. The
3-way tie for number 5.
No, I left 2 out. One of the ones I left out was Dark Knight Rises. I did not care for that movie at all. Anne Hathaway is Catwoman. She's out. And I can't get behind Logan, although I respect your guys' opinion. I did watch it, and it's just not my thing. Number 5, Wonder Woman. I thought it was okay. It was just good enough to beat out the 2 that I just mentioned. I feel like Donnie in The Big Lebowski. I'm completely out of my element. Remember, John Goodman kept reminding him, Donnie, you're out of your element. Well, that's me. Number 4, I went with Guardians of the Galaxy. I have to admit, it's entertaining, excellent soundtrack, and I did like that little Rocket Raccoon character they put in there for added entertainment. So that worked for me. Number 3 is Deadpool. Now, I enjoyed this movie. You guys both had it in your action adventure category, and I can see why, because it's nonstop action. But the one-liners that Ryan Reynolds throws around, and he's got the mask on, and It's, you know, it's comic book related, obviously, just hilarious stuff. Here's one for the R-rated community. Whose kitty litter did I just shit in? I love that line.
Oh God,
Couldn't,
it's great.
I went with the toilet humor right off the bat. After a brief adjustment period and a couple of drinks, it's just a face I'd be happy to sit on. That's his girlfriend talking to him at the end of the movie. And that lifted the comic book element and the violence to another degree. It worked as a comedy for me. It was outstanding. It was funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Joker. I couldn't overlook it. And like Brian said, it's a look at mental illness. This is a failed clown / comedian and his descent into insanity. It's violent, it's depressing, but it's a realistic tale of a misfit, somebody who's just on the fringes of society. And Joaquin Phoenix delivers one heck of a performance here as Arthur Fleck. Great job. The acting really pulled this one up a notch for me. It's number 2 on my list. And number 1, I couldn't get away with not putting this number 1, is Black Panther. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was well done in every aspect. I didn't expect to like it because I don't like any of the comic book genre pretty much, but it had structure, it had character development, it had the cultural aspect that Brian talked about, solid action, it had a beginning, a middle, and an end, which I appreciate. It wasn't muddled, it was concise, and I thought it was really, really a strong movie, and great performances here by Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan in particular. Excellent. I really, really can't recommend that highly enough. So that, I was glad I saw that. And if we weren't doing this category, I probably wouldn't have watched it. So I watched it just for this, and it paid off. I really, really enjoyed it. So that would be my number 1, Black Panther.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie, man.
It really is. It really worked. You know,
Hey, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's like Vin Diesel's best work, right? I mean,
I have
he only
Brian,
can
I was
say
going
3
to it.
words, right? He's a tree. What damage can he do? He can't do any more damage to a movie.
way to
I
step
am
up, Vin.
Groot.
Way to step up, buddy. I knew he had it in him.
Wait till FF10 comes out, then we're all screwed.
All right, so that's it. We're going to wrap up the comic book category. I'd like to hear some feedback from our viewers, some comments. What are your favorites? Who do we not mention? And what's your number 1 comic book movie of the 2010s? Please give us some feedback. So for Brian and Doc, I'm Rich. We'll see you next time. We'll be back with our war films. Take care. Bye.